and to have a ceasefire. Hopefully tonight, by tonight, we will have this ceasefire. So did we think very much about the day after? No. I mean, there hasn't been, but I think, you know, there is some plans. I know that a lot of international organizations, we have a committee also to work on it. They have plans. I'm not aware of them, but we do have. And it is building the infrastructure and housing, because we have more than between 50 and 60,000 houses in the south and in the Bekaa and in Beirut that, you know, that we need to rebuild, because we have 1.5 million displaced Lebanese living in schools. And as you know, yesterday, the day before, the Minister of Education have stopped schools because we want to put, you know, displaced people in schools. So it's a very difficult time. I think we'll manage it. It's a small country, and I think we do work with each other, and I think we'll manage to do something.
Well, speaking of working with each other, I want to turn to the domestic political situation. Obviously, Lebanon has been in political vacuum for 2 years, you know, without a president, only a caretaker cabinet. Surely now's the time for the Lebanese politicians to feel the urgency of the need to fill this vacuum.
You know that we are a caretaker government. In 24 members of the government, we have one member of parliament only. So we don't deal very much with the presidency. This is the parliament. And one of the ills of democracy in our region, like we witnessed it in Iraq as well as in Lebanon, when you have free elections, you may not get a majority. I mean, electing a president needs 2/3 majority. We have 128 members of parliament, 86 are needed. It's so far they found it not difficult, somehow impossible to rally 86 members of parliament to elect a president or to agree on a president. It's a very difficult times, and I think we have to overcome it. And I know that there are a lot of members of parliament that are asking for a simple majority. You know, I think this will be dangerous for Lebanon. Especially at this time, we need a president that would put people together, get people together. It's not a matter of the the Lebanese armed forces is a disciplined force. All commanders were successful. Since independence, there is no commander of the Lebanese armed forces that failed in doing what he has to do. So we know that we have it. Now we need a president that would put the country together. And I mean this politically. Is it an easy task? I don't think it's an easy task.
So is it ceasefire first, then president? Why should these two files be linked?
There is disagreement on that in Lebanon, but this is what's happening, is that, you know, I give you an example. It would have been, if there is an election before a ceasefire, it would have been very difficult for members of parliament belonging to Hezbollah to come to the parliament. It's not safe. And we should trust us here? No, we don't. Okay, so they don't at least. So it is a difficult time. I'm not justifying not having a president. This has been more than 2 years. We've been without a president, and I think the parliament, one way or another, this is personal view, that they should have elected a president. You cannot continue in a vacuum, and everybody, all those are concerned about Lebanon, countries or people, they ask us, you've got to get a president. You've got to elect a president.
I'm going to hand back to Paulo.
I know we have been talking in many sessions, even this edition of MET, of the role or the non-role of the European Union in the crisis. But let me ask you, what would you expect Europe to do now in the next few months, after the ceasefire? What is Lebanese expectation on Europe in the near future?
You know, the problem of Europe is that, as now the HRVP says, is that it's very difficult to unite Europe on one issue. There's always one country objection. So it's not easy and this means that it's not easy for Europe to play a political role. Now, countries in Europe play a political role. France plays a very important role. Italy is playing a role also, and can play even an increasing role in Lebanon and the situation in Lebanon. So Europe can help more in the economic process, in the reconstruction process, more than in the political process as a unit, let me say. But as a separate country, Britain plays also a role. You know, as a separate countries, they do play a role, but it's very difficult for them to play it because of the structure of Europe. Like we can't, because of the elections in Lebanon, produced a parliament that cannot elect a president. The same thing in Europe. The laws in Europe cannot make it united and cannot make it take a decision. I heard that from Mr. Borrell. You know, it's not like my.
No. I mean, I can't say this is the answer I was hoping to get as a European. But I think it's a very realistic answer. I mean, we are often not involved in breaking something, but when something is broken, we are asked to help pay for the broken situation. But let's hope this may change. But now we have been trying to ask you, Lina and myself, to discuss the day after. And you answered several times, we had no time to think for the day after so far. But I need to force you, Minister, on this issue, because as I did with the Egyptian foreign minister yesterday, you know, MED this year is the 10th anniversary of MED, and when we started this exercise, we decided to put a title, a claim, which was a positive agenda, but then we realized that mentioning only the positive agenda, given the situation of the region, was too optimistic, and so we put comma, beyond turmoil. And in these last 10 years, we had no shortage of turmoil. You know, we had Islamic State, Syria, and Libya, and Iran, and then COVID, and now this year, the utmost turmoil. But we need to look at the positive agenda. And the positive agenda, of course, is the day after. We cannot talk about the positive agenda looking at last year, of course. So what is your vision of a possible but realistic positive agenda for the region and for your country? Lina asked you already on the country, but can you wrap up and close this session with your vision of the positive agenda for the region and for your country?
Let me say this about my country first.
My country first is very...
MAGA.
Is very,
you know, we have occupied land. We hopefully that this process would lead to negotiations with Israel on the borders and will settle once and for all the borders between us and Israel. And it has not been settled for a long time. And Israelis have been refusing to talk about it. And the problem of Lebanon is that as long as there is occupation, and this is international law, you cannot stop resistance. Call it in the West terrorism, call it whatever it is resistance. That whenever you have occupation, you have resistance. And unless we settle this, Israel accepts to settle the borders once and for all, I think resistance would come back and problems will come back. If not in a year or 5 years or 10 years, one day it would come back. We've been, since 2006, up until October 8, 2023, the borders between us and Israel did not witness any important clash, any important problem. Really, there is some problems here and there that they were solved on the ground, you know. So what we need is, if we need a stable border, if we need to have, if we need, and for us to build a very strong state, we need to settle the borders with Israel. And if Israel continues to refuse to settle the border, it will be very difficult politically to control in the future the resistance. This is very important. You know, political, in a small country like Lebanon, economics, especially the Lebanese all over the world, and they are, you know, like I always say, we have 1 million Lebanese between Europe, Africa, and the Gulf. And they are supporting Lebanon now. We have a dollarized economy. We pay most of our bills in dollars rather than, except when you deal with the government, it has to be in Lebanese currency. So I'm not afraid for Lebanon economically. I'm afraid for security, for, you know, stability in the country. It would produce economic growth quickly. We have banking sector is not yet fixed. We have to fix the banking sector. There is no trust in the bankers in Lebanon, in the banking sector in Lebanon. There is no change. I mean, the disaster that it was caused in 2019 by the banking sector did not cause the change of the administration. They are still the same. So the people are really afraid to put their money there. And still those banks are not giving any credit to industry, agriculture, housing, anything yet. So the banking sector is still not working very well. We've got to fix the banking sector, hopefully with the help of the IMF as well. So I think once it's done, if we get security, if we get stability in the country, I'm not afraid for the economy. So it gradually will build back what we lost with the help of, as we say it in Lebanon, with the brothers. We say each other brothers among the Arab world, and the friends. I think we can rebuild the country.
And on the region?
On the region, you need a solution for the Palestinian problem. This problem has been with us since 1948. And it has not been, its effectiveness on the region and the world has not been slowing down. On the contrary, I see the Palestinian nationalism stronger than it was in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And if Israelis think that they can suffocate the Palestinians, they are mistaken. They are creating problems for themselves. Unless they solve this problem with the Palestinians, the way they both have to solve it together, there would be no peace in the region. And the region would always have something, hopefully not, but always would have something like October 7 and so on. So similar to it, and you see that those October 7s have been getting worse and worse. They have not been, let's say, this is reducing. Yes, you can kill Hamas, but there would be, I mean, what do you do with 15,000 orphans? They all have bitterness about Israel. They all, unless there is something, and now they are killing UNRWA. So who's going to help them? These are going to go to extreme organizations in the future. And that's what Israelis have to understand, that they cannot finish the Palestinian problem until there is a settlement between them and the Palestinians.
Excellency, thank you very much. We all cross fingers for your country, for your region. And we discussed before that we will have next year a step in between the two MED on Lebanon and see how and assess how the situation is evolving. Please join me in a round of applause for the Minister and for Lina. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.